is Clark Howard, and he talks about, how to invest money and save and all that other kind of thing. So he had an article here saying 7 ways to start living within your means without feeling limited, which was pretty cool. And one of the things that got me is he has a habit of, instead of just writing down a budget that you have as far as what you're spending on, he budgets starting from zero, which means you have nothing. And what you're going to do is you're just going to start writing down what you need to spend on, starting with zero and building it up from there, which is going to make you pay a whole lot more attention to the different things that you're spending your money on. And he also talks, and this is right up yours and my alley too, about having a feeling of gratitude for all the different things that you can afford. So he talks about, your apartments, maybe being able to go out every once in a while, dinner or whatever. But if you start from zero, it's a really great way to look at things.
Yeah, what you're talking about is called zero-based budgeting. And for a person, it's a great thing. It is phenomenal for a business, because most businesses, when they have to do an annual budget, they take last year's budget or last quarter's budget, and they go, okay, this is the starting point. Well, I need to spend a little more here, and I need to spend a little less here. But when you start everything at zero, it forces you to figure out exactly how much you have to spend. And personally, I have been a big proponent of zero-based budgeting, not just for businesses, but for governments, state, local governments, federal government. Zero-based budgeting is a fantastic tool. And unfortunately, most large organizations do not use it because it does take a little extra time. It's a little more work. But in terms of saving money, it's a phenomenal tool. So what else did Clark Howard recommend?
Well, he also talked about being grateful for what you can afford. And obviously, another thing that you can do personally is to look how you can increase the amount of money that you're bringing in. So if you're at work and you're doing a good job, it could be asking for a raise, or obviously there's all different types of opportunities out there for you to do something on the side, have a side business like we've talked about before. So if things aren't working out the way you want them to, or if you want to start putting a little bit more away, it's never been an easier time to figure out ways to increase that top line for yourself.
Yeah, right now we are at a unique position where there are actually more jobs out there than there are people to fill them. So this is a great time for you to look. If you're not making enough in your current job, look around, see if there's a job that you're qualified for that you can make more money. A side hustle. I always recommend people have a side hustle because you never know what's going to happen. You don't want all your eggs in one basket. Regardless of what the job is. Here in Connecticut, there are folks that do call center work for AT&T. Well, yesterday they just found out that AT&T is moving these jobs to Georgia. So either they're going to have to move to Georgia to keep the job or find something else. Now, if they had a side hustle, it wouldn't be as big a deal because as they're looking for another job, they're still making money on their side hustle. So it's very important to have multiple streams of income. And virtually every book I have ever read on how to retire well, how to get rich, every one of them stresses multiple streams of income. It should be your day job. It should be a side job. It should be investment income. And you should always have as many different income streams as you can.
So one of the other things that Clark talks about is spreading out your splurges. And these could be like the minor conveniences that you have in your life. And instead of timing them monthly, you might want to go every 6 weeks or 8 weeks for this and that type of thing. Going out to dinner and that, again, it all depends on where you are. But having the resources doesn't mean you need to spend them right away. And one of the best ways to keep things under control is to have those things budgeted time wise.
Yes, budget those things time wise. And also, you can split your money up. Very, very often people will have, a savings account and a checking account. But there's nothing that says you can't have multiple savings accounts. And now most banks will open an account with as little as, anywhere between $20 and $100. So you can have one account that's just for going out to eat, one account that's just for saving for a vacation, one account that's an investment account. And this way, you don't touch the money that's earmarked for something specific. So what other advice did Clark have for us?
Actually, those are the 7 points that he had there was challenging the recurring expenses, which we talked about looking at your TV example, shopping savvy, which is comparing prices and so on, trimming the fat out of your budget. And then we just talked about the splurges. We talked about zero-based budgeting, practicing gratitude, and making more. He just had the 7 points there. Other things to look into, obviously, for your own personal well-being is taking care of your health, maybe doing things yourself, project-wise, and so on and so forth, rather than spending money on getting things done. Even one point there, can't do it this time of year, but planting a garden instead of having to go shopping for vegetables and stuff like that too. So
actually, there are some fantastic indoor gardens where you can grow vegetables inside. If you have space in a basement or something like that, you can still have a garden even in the winter. And in fact, one of the things that I tell people that's a great way to save money is, if you don't know already, learn to cook. I learned to cook at a very early age. And between knowing what the prices are at all of my local markets and the ability to cook, I can serve my family of 4 a steak dinner with, side dish, vegetables, all the trimmings for less money than I can take them to McDonald's. So you're eating better, which lowers your health costs because you're eating healthier. You're saving money on the food. And quite frankly, you're eating better food. So absolutely, if you don't already know how to cook, please learn to cook.
Yeah, and getting back to business a little bit, because I know we've been talking mostly about personal things.
Yep.
Out in the business world, there is a lot of opportunities out there because we have a lot more smaller business and solopreneurs who may be a little bit cash poor. However, by developing strategic partnerships to help each other out with business and so on and so forth, you may be able to kind of barter off services between each other to cover projects and keep things within line that way too. So never underestimate the relationships that you have out there. And if you can get together with some of your strategic partners and figure out the best way to help each other out in those different ways, you may be able to save some money that way too.
Absolutely. Working with other solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, you can save quite a bit of money. As you just mentioned, by bartering services back and forth, but also by sharing resources. If you want to get an office, but say you don't all need a full-time office, if 4 or 5 people go in on a single office, each one using it one day, you're cutting a lot off of the rent. A lot of the software we use nowadays is cloud-based software. So you can buy very often 5 licenses at a discount. And if you've got 5 different businesses going in with you, then those 5 people can all pay for one license, and that license can be cheaper than you're paying all by yourself to get the software. So there are a lot of advantages to working with other businesses. There's also membership groups. chambers of commerce. We're actually working right now putting together a membership option for the Empower Business Connection, and a lot of these offer discounts. So when you pay your membership, you're not just getting the benefits of that membership. Maybe it's the events that they put on or whatever it is. These programs give you discounts at Staples, discounts at restaurants, discounts at local businesses, for rental cars, hotels. So if these are things you use on a regular basis, these discount cards are a fantastic way to save money. And you can do it as a business or you can do it as an individual. And you really do need to look very closely at what you're using and whether or not you really need it. I mean, on the individual level, we talked about TV, we mentioned landlines, but your cell phone service. If you're a business person, look into using a business cell phone. A couple of years ago, we decided we wanted to trade in our cell phone service. We weren't thrilled with our provider. We looked at new providers. And when I went to T-Mobile, they asked me if I owned a business. And I said, yes. They said, well, if you do this through your business, it's actually cheaper. So we got the phones through my company and saved money there. And T-Mobile actually offers different apps that help me run the phones for the business. So there's different benefits if you're a solopreneur of getting services that you might think of as personal through your business. And of course, the other benefit of getting it through your business is that the business is paying the bills. So you take that off of your income, you're making less, but the cost comes out before you're paying taxes on the income. So it lowers your taxable income, which is a great way to cut your expenses in paying taxes.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a solopreneur, the more that you can run through the business legitimately, the better off you're going to be as far as tax bills and getting discounts, just like you were saying.
Yes. And the key word there is legitimately.
Yep.
All right, we're actually coming up on the end of our time. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway our listeners should take this week?
Well, it all starts with a budget, and maybe your zero-based budget and tracking things. And number two, shop smart. There's a whole lot of different ways to do that. And number three, when you are shopping, make sure you start and your budgeting, start with your needs versus your wants. And then get something on the side. Get a side gig going so you can increase that top line too.
Absolutely. Multiple streams of income are always the best way to go. And take a hard look at what you're spending. And do you really need to be spending as much? Most times you can find a better deal getting the exact same thing or cutting services that you don't actually use. So pay attention to what you're spending. Pay attention to what you're bringing in. If you live within your means, you can save more, invest more, and that's how people retire better. So remember, you always have to have that cushion. But if you just keep spending, again, if you're spending to look rich, you're going to end up poor. If you spend like a pauper, you'll end up rich. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at xvadio.com/podcasts. You can also find us at the iTunes Store, the Apple Podcasts app, Spotify, iHeartRadio app, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. See you then.